Hi everyone, this is your Shafiq sir. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I am teaching very interesting topic and a very important topic for the everyone. So please carefully listen my class. Okay. So this is the very important topic: law of diminishing marginal utility theory. Law of diminishing marginal utility theory. Diminishing is nothing but decreasing. Marginal is nothing but decreasing. Diminishing. Marginal is nothing but additional. Utility is nothing but satisfaction. If the consumer consuming the more and more goods, their satisfaction will be diminishes. That is the theme of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. If the consumer consuming the more and more goods, their additional satisfaction gradually decreases. That is the concept of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. So listen here. The first time the law of diminishing marginal utility theory first time explained by the H.H. Gaussian in 1854. So in 1854, first time H.H. Henry Heinrich Gaussian explained that law of diminishing marginal utility theory, and then that was Givens named as it is the Gaussian first law of consumption. Gaussian first law of consumption. Actually, H.H. Gaussian, they explain the two theories: law of diminishing marginal utility theory and law of equimarginal utility theory. So that's why Givens named as Gaussian first law of consumption. Later, this law of diminishing marginal utility theory popularized by the Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall with the principles of economics. Principles of Economics, that is a famous book written by the Alfred Marshall in 1890, and scientifically he was analyzing that law of diminishing marginal utility theory. That is the introduction of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. So H.H. Gaussian, originally law of diminishing marginal utility theory explained by the H.H. Gaussian in the 1854. Givens named as a Gaussian first law of consumption, and later it was developed by the Alfred Marshall with the help of principles of economics in 1890. And Alfred Marshall, they proved that scientifically about the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. So generally law of diminishing marginal utility theory, it shows the functional relationship between a stock of commodities and marginal utility. So law of diminishing marginal utility, it has a functional relationship between a stock of commodities and marginal utilities. Stock of commodities is nothing but if the consumer has the, for example, one consumer consuming the 10 goods, and what satisfaction he receives, that what additional satisfaction he receives, that relationship explained by the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. So it explains the stock of commodities and marginal utility theory. So then let us discuss about that. What is the definition of law of diminishing marginal utility theory? So everyone carefully read this definition. So what is the definition of law of diminishing marginal utility theory? The additional benefits which a person derives from a given increase of his stock of anything diminishes with the every increase of the stock that he already has. The definition given by the Alfred Marshall. Law of diminishing marginal utility theory, DMU theory, definition explained by the Alfred Marshall. So once again I repeat the definition, carefully listen here. Additional benefits means satisfaction which a person, any one person derives is nothing but receiving from a given increase of his stock when the consumer increasing his stock of commodities. So anything that is diminishes, anything means their marginal satisfaction, additional satisfaction will be diminishes with the every increase of the stock that he already has, that he, so already that person they has something satisfaction, maximum satisfaction. Afterwards he can increasing their stock of commodities, their marginal satisfaction will be decreases. So that is the given by the Alfred Marshall. So listen here, this is the definition. Next one, what is the assumptions of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory? First assumption is called the consumer is the rational person. So consumer assumptions, first of all assumptions is nothing but conditions. So these conditions are very very important for the understanding the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. Without these conditions we can't understand that law of diminishing marginal utility theory. So every theory it has this some important conditions, important assumptions. So here what is the first assumption of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory? Consumer is the rational person. Rational person is nothing but every consumer they want to get the maximum satisfaction with the limited money, limited income. So that is called as a rational person. So everyone they want to get the maximum satisfaction with the limited income, limited money. So logically consumer they choose that commodities which is given the more satisfaction, which is not given the more satisfaction. That's why consumer always is a rational person. Consumer must be as a rational person with they want to get the maximum satisfaction from the goods. So that is the first condition of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. And second condition, units are reasonable size. So generally here in the law of diminishing marginal utility theory we have to take that apples. So in this theory, we have to take that apples. Apples are very reasonable size. Reasonable size is nothing but not the very big, not the very small. So that should be one reasonable size goods only. We have to take that. That is that condition is called as a units. Units are reasonable size, not the very big, not the very small. And third one, identical units should be taken, identical. So identical units is apples, easily everyone identify that, even educated persons, uneducated children, so elders, everyone easily we can identify that. Only identified identified goods only we have to take that. So here apples actually example, apples taken that example. And no change in the taste and preferences of the consumer. While the studying the this law of diminishing marginal utility theory, consumer do not taste your you do not change your taste and preferences. For example, taste and preferences means while the applying this law of diminishing marginal utility theory, that consumer must be eat the 7 apples, but not the changing that consumption. Don't change that consumption like that. Two after eating 2 apples, then I choose that bananas, or I take that 2 bananas, or and then I take the 1 orange, sir. So that's not correct. Do not change your taste. Do not change your preference. That is called as a one condition, no change in the taste and preference of the consumer. Your taste and preferences remains constant. And another important condition, utility is measurable in cardinal numbers. So generally, utility means satisfaction that should be measured through the two methods, cardinal method and ordinal method. So in our previous class I am clearly explained that what is the cardinal method, what is the ordinal method. Cardinal method is nothing but, so cardinal, so the utility of the commodity, it should be measurable and comparable with the numerical numbers, that is called as a cardinal utility. So according to that cardinal utility, satisfaction will be, utility can be measurable and comparable with the numerical numbers like 1 2 3 4 dash dash dash, that is the numerical numbers. So it is useful for the measuring purpose and comparison purpose. Actually that cardinal approach developed by the Alfred Marshall. And another method also is their ordinal method. According to that ordinal method, utility cannot be measurable, but it is possible to compare between the commodities. Utility cannot be measurable, but it can be comparable between the commodities. That method is called as a ordinal method, that is developed by the Hicks and Allen. So whatever it is, law of diminishing marginal utility theory based on the cardinal method only. So utility is measurable in cardinal numbers. And next important condition, divisibility. Units are divisible. Divisible is nothing but, so divisible commodities only we have to take that in this law of diminishing marginal utility theory. Indivisible goods cannot be take that. Do not take that indivisible goods. For example, one big building is there, that is the divisible or indivisible, indivisible. So that goods satisfaction, that building satisfaction are not able to measure that, because it is a indivisible thing, it is a whole property, whole building. So that is called as a indivisible goods. Individual goods ni తీసుకోకూడదు, only divisible goods only we have to consider in the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. And next condition, marginal utility of money remains the constant. That money value must be remains the constant. For example, present 100 rupees gives the 40 util satisfaction, but previously also that 100 rupees gives the same satisfaction to the consumer. That money value do not change that. So that is called as a marginal utility of money, it remains the constant. And if that money value is changing, it's not possible to measure that utility of the commodity. And next one, utilities are independent. So another important condition, utilities are independent. Like that apples, so we example, what is examples taken here, apples. That utilities are independent but not depends upon the one commodity to another commodity. So independent, so independent commodities we have to take that. Homogeneous goods only we have to take that. Homogeneous means similar products we have to take that according to size, color, quantity, taste, whatever it is. So that is called as independent. So these are the examples. Some goods are there. For example, if you want to drink the tea is the it is not the independent good, because it is the tea taste depends upon the use of the tea powder and sugar and milk. If the taste of the tea depends upon the tea powder, milk, sugar. So if the anyone is absence is there, there is no taste in the tea. So that is called as a dependent. But here apples are independent. Apples are independent. That is not depends upon the any other. So these are the conditions of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. So once again I repeat that, carefully listen here. consumer is the rational person, units are reasonable size, identical units must be take that, no change in the taste and preferences, utility is measurable in cardinal numbers, divisibility is there, divisible goods only take that, marginal utility of money remains the constant, utilities are independent. So these are the assumptions or conditions of the law of diminishing marginal utility theory. And then what is the basic concept of the law? So that law of diminishing marginal utility theory, it depends upon the some basic concept of the law. So what is the, first of all, total utility? What is called the total utility? Total utility is nothing but the sum of the utility derived from the all commodities is called the total utility. The sum of the utility, sum is nothing but total. The total utility, the sum of the utility derived from the all units of the commodity. So for example, 10 goods, if you use that, 10 goods, if you use that, the total satisfaction 100 utils is there. So if you use that 10 goods, their total satisfaction is 100 utils is there. That is called as a total utility. There is a one equation also is there, total utility, TU is equal, total utility is equal to marginal utility of 1 plus marginal utility of 2 plus dash dash marginal utility of n. So every one commodity satisfaction will be added, that is called as a total utility. 10 goods, their total satisfaction is 100 util satisfaction is there. So this is the one concept. And second one, marginal utility. Marginal utility. So what is the marginal utility? Marginal utility is the utility derived from additional units of the commodity. Marginal utility is the utility derived is nothing but receiving by additional units of the commodity. So additional units, so for example, if you additionally using that goods, consuming the any goods, that gives this some additional satisfaction to you, that is called as a marginal utility. Here also one equation is there, mu marginal utility is equal change in total utility divided by change in quantity. Q is nothing but quantity, TU is nothing but total utility. So this is the basic concept of the law, total utility and marginal utility. I am already explained that what is called the total utility and marginal utility. So and let us discuss the what is the table, how to explain the table. So listen here. So first column, in this first column I showed that units of apples. So what is it taken here? Apples. And next second column, TU is nothing but total utility, MU is nothing but marginal utility. So listen here. So example, what is the taken here? Apples. If the consumer consuming the apples continuously, that consumer consuming that apples, their additional satisfaction will be decreases. That is the how to decrease that additional satisfaction. So I am explain here. So before the eating the any apple, that is 0, your total satisfaction utility also 0, marginal utility also 0. Before the taken the any apples, before the eating the any apple, your total satisfaction also 0, marginal satisfaction also 0. So if you use the first apple, your total utility is 40 util satisfaction is there. And if you eat that second apple, your total satisfaction also 70 is there. When the stock of commodity increases, total utility increases at a decreasing level. So and third apple, if you eat that, your total satisfaction is 90 util satisfaction. And fourth apple, if you use that, 100 util satisfaction is there. And fifth apple, it gives the same satisfaction, 100 util satisfaction. So it's mean, so consumer already reaching that maximum satisfaction up to the fourth apple. So do not after the reaching that maximum satisfaction by the consumer do not increasing their consumption fifth apple, sixth apple and seventh apple. After reaching that maximum satisfaction, if you increasing that, your total satisfaction also gradually decreases. So here finally we can understand that every consumer, they can use that goods up to the one level, up to the our maximum satisfaction. After that, don't increase that goods. If you increase that consumption, your satisfaction will be decreases. So here just up to the fourth apple, their consumer reaching the maximum satisfaction, but fifth apple gives their marginal satisfaction is zero. Marginal satisfaction is zero because four apples, their total satisfaction is 100 is there. 5 apples, their total satisfaction is 100 is there. There is no change in the total utility, total satisfaction. That's why marginal satisfaction is zero. Zero is nothing but it indicates that better to stop your consumption. So because already you have to reaching the maximum satisfaction, don't increase your consumption. If you increase your consumption, total utility also decreases, marginal utility also negative is there. So here how to calculate the marginal utility? So simply here already I showed that equation, marginal utility is equal change in total utility by change in quantity. So listen here, uh, before the using that apples, total utility also zero, marginal utility also zero. And then first commodity, first apple total utility is zero. So what is the total utility? 40. Sorry, first apple total utility is 40. Before that zero is there, means 40 minus 0, 40. Marginal utility, additional satisfaction is 40 is there. So first commodity, marginal satisfaction is 40 because 40 minus 0. Before that there is no satisfaction. 40 minus 0, marginal satisfaction is 40. And second apple total satisfaction is 70. Minus previous satisfaction is 40. 70 minus 40 is equal, marginal satisfaction is 30 is there. And third apple total satisfaction 90, previous one 70. 90 minus 70 is equal 20. Their marginal satisfaction, third apple marginal satisfaction is 20 util satisfaction is there. And next fourth apple, their total satisfaction is 100. Previous satisfaction is 90 is there. 100 minus 90 is equal 10. So fourth apple marginal satisfaction is 10. When the consumer increasing their stock of commodity, their total utility no doubt at all increases at the diminishing rate, but marginal satisfaction, marginal utility will be decreases 40, 30, 20, 10. So marginal utility of the commodity always decreases. When the stock of commodity increases, that marginal utility of the commodity always that will be decreases. And then fifth apple total satisfaction is 100. Previous satisfaction is 100. Fourth apple satisfaction 100. Fifth apple satisfaction also 100. Means marginal satisfaction is 0. 100 minus 100, 0. 100 minus 100 is equal 0. So here 100 minus 100 is equal 0. Okay. And sixth apple. So sixth apple total satisfaction is 90. Previous 100. 90 minus 100 is equal to minus 10. Minus 10 means, so there is no satisfaction to that consumer. That consumer has goes to the negative results. Okay. And next one, seventh apple total satisfaction is 70 is there. Previous sixth apple satisfaction 90 is there. 70 minus 90 is equal to minus 20. Again it was going to the negative numbers. Okay, so up to the fourth apple, it is better to getting the good. Total utility also satisfaction also increases, marginal satisfaction also increases, because consumer up to fourth apple they are reaching the maximum satisfaction. So afterwards, yes, this is the table explanation. Okay, so I think everyone can better understand that. So what is the total utility and marginal utility? Then let us discuss the graph. How to draw the graph? So first everyone draw the x-axis and everyone draw the y-axis. On the x-axis we have to show that units of the commodity means apples. Y-axis I can show that total utility and marginal utility. So first you can draw the first you can draw the total utility curve, then you can draw the marginal utility curve. So how to draw that graph? For example, first total utility curve. What is the first apple total satisfaction? 40. So take that point here, 40. And second apple total satisfaction 70. 70. So 60 to between 80, 70 is there. And third apple 90. Third apple 90. Fourth apple 100 util satisfaction. Fourth apple 100 util satisfaction. Fifth apple 100 util satisfaction. Fifth apple 100 util satisfaction. And sixth apple 90 util satisfaction. So sixth apple total utility is 90, and seventh apple total utility is 90, and seventh apple total utility is 70. Seventh apple total utility is 70. So this is after finding that values on the between the x and y axis. So you can arrange that all points from the 0 onwards. So like that. Here this is called as a total utility curve. And then draw the marginal utility. So first marginal utility 0 is there. 0, that curve is started from 0. And first apple marginal utility 40. First apple marginal utility 40. Second commodity apple marginal satisfaction is 30. Second one 30. And third one 20. Third apple marginal satisfaction is 20. 20. Fourth apple marginal satisfaction is 10. Fourth apple marginal satisfaction is 10. And fifth one 0. So here fifth apple, here when the marginal utility curve intersect at the point of 5, so that indicate the 0. So when the marginal utility curve is intersect that point showing that 0 value, fifth apple showing the 0. And here negative values also is there, minus 20. So after the 0, so below this line is called as a negative value, showing the negative value. So sixth apple, what is the marginal satisfaction? 10 minus 10. So minus 10. So we have to show that this point. And seventh apple marginal satisfaction is 20 minus 20. And seventh apple marginal satisfaction is minus 20. So here I find that point here. So after finding that points, again you can arrange that all points. This is called as a marginal utility curve. Okay, so here simply I can explain that. So how they explain that graph? Listen here. So from in the first stage up to the fourth apple, up to the fourth apple, so the total utility curve is going to the upwards. Upwards means it indicates that increasing your total satisfaction. So up to the fourth apple, your total satisfaction will be increases 40 to 100. So here 40 to 100. So that consumer going to the maximum satisfaction. Then fifth apple satisfaction also 100 is there. So but in the first stage, total utility curve going to the very rapidly upwards, but marginal utility curve going to the downfalls means decreases. Marginal utility curve, so first 0 to 40 increases, then marginal utility will be decreases 40, 30, 20, 10. That's why this curve is going to the downfall. And in the second stage, your fifth apple marginal total satisfaction also 100 is there. 100 means there is no change in the total satisfaction, and marginal satisfaction is 0. So it's mean here in the second stage, here marginal utility curve, it was intersect at the point of 5. It indicates that 0. And in the third stage, sixth apple total satisfaction also decreases 100 to 90, 90 to 70. That's why total utility curve is going to the downfall. Total utility curve is going to the downfall, and marginal utility after 0, minus 10, minus 20 is there. After the fifth apple, that curve going to the below the x-axis. That is indicate that negative values we have to receive that. So this is the small explanation about the graph. Okay, so please everyone subscribe my channel and like, share my channel to your friends. So for the more videos, so subscribe my channels. Thank you everyone.